Hi, I'm Amita. Come right with me. As you know, we're doing a series on point of view, and do check out my other posts on point of view. There will be posts on close third point of view, second person point of view, and first person point of view, and I will also do posts on multiple points of view and how to do them successfully. Today, I'm actually going to look at it feels a bit dated now, this idea of a distant third point of view, an omniscient point of view where the author can see everything that's going on. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this. First, we're going to look at a short excerpt from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens first, and then I will give you another one afterwards. So just notice what happens when the author is privy to a lot more than someone's head. So just watch. This is the opening paragraph. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. I'm going to stop there. Okay, famous line, right? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Oh, I mean, who writes like that anymore? Nobody does. maybe I don't know. Maybe you want to give it a little go just to have an experiment. But this is how we don't write anymore. We tend to, we tend to do close third readings. We tend to go quite near someone's head. I will actually give you a little other example of that, just to have a little comparison in a second, and I will show you that. But this is how you do a distant third, and we don't do that anymore. What a distant third tends to do is it really zooms out. In a close third, you might want to check out my other post on close third, we really zoom into someone's head, similar to a first person point of view. We really zoom in, and so we're privy to their thoughts and feelings in their point of view chapter, or in the entire book if it is their point of view in the entire book. In a distant third, like in Dickens, we tend to zoom out and we're able to see everything. And in this case, the author's voice and the author's point of view is almost more important than the character's point of view. Now, when we do, these days, contemporary novels, when we do a third person point of view, we're so close that actually the voice of the novel, the narrator, is the point of view character. But actually, in more kind of, I don't want to call them old fashioned, I suppose they are, aren't they? They're older novels. They're slightly dated in a sense. They're never dated in one sense because they're classics, but in the sense of style, like stylistically, they're from slightly olden days, let's just say. This is from the 1800s. What you might think is that you can have this distant point of view where the author's point of view is actually what we're going for. This is Dickens talking, right? This isn't the character talking, this is Dickens talking. So just have a think about that and what that provides. And you might want to experiment with what this distant third business actually provides. So if you now look at Louisa May Alcott's Little Women and the opening chapter of that, you'll see another aspect of the distant third point of view that, again, we don't really see anymore. So, Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, grumbled Jo, lying on the rug. It's so dreadful to be poor, sighed Meg, looking down at her old dress. I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and the other girls nothing at all, added little Amy, with an injured sniff. We've got father and mother and each other, said Beth contentedly from her corner. Listen now. The four young faces on which the firelight shone brightened at the cheerful words, but darkened again, as Jo said sadly, we haven't got father and shall not have him for a long time. She didn't say perhaps never, but each silently added it, thinking of father far away where the fighting was. Notice this sentence. This really tells you about the distant third person point of view. she, in this case Jo, she didn't say perhaps never, but each silently added it. Each side, I mean, there's 4 people in the scene, right? And the author is telling us that each one of those silently added oh, perhaps we'll never see father again. So it's really interesting because that means that the author thinks of themselves as being privy to all 4 characters' heads. You wouldn't really have that now. In contemporary novels, listen, the rules are there to be broken, so do go ahead and experiment with it. I'm just talking sort of about general stylistic choices now, that people make. But generally speaking, you'd be privy to the head of the point of view character, but you wouldn't be privy to the heads of everyone else or the hearts. You'd only really see their body language, and their body language is meant to convey how they're feeling or thinking, or their words, their body language and their words and their gestures are meant to convey that. But as an author, you can't just directly enter someone else's head when it's actually this one person's point of view. But in literature from the 1800s, you could, because you'd have this distant kind of third point of view that I've just shown you 2 examples of. So in Dickens's case, what it did was it allowed us to really zoom out and look at societal kind of trends and historical moments. In Louisa May Alcott's passage, what it allowed us to do was there are 4 people in the scene, but we are actually privy to the heads and feelings and thoughts of all of them, but we're not too close to anyone in particular in this particular scene. So just have a think about that's what a distant third allows us to do. So just for a second, if we wanted to compare with Americana by Chimamanda Adichie, who also writes in the third person, you can see that she does some of the things that Dickens did. So for example, she starts the book with saying, Princeton in the summer smelled of nothing. Right? So first sentence we've got is about the setting. And although Femelu liked the tranquil greenness of the many trees, the clean streets and stately homes, the delicately overpriced shops and the quiet abiding air of earned grace, it was this, the lack of a smell, that most appealed to her. Perhaps because the other American cities she knew well had all smelled distinctly. See what she did here. So just in the first this is just the first sentence, in fact. What you've got is Princeton in the summer smelled of nothing. So you've got the thing of that Dickens did in the first passage, which is to give you an idea of the setting and the historical moment, perhaps. But even in this first sentence, you already have very clearly Efemelu's point of view. She liked it, right? So it was the lack of the smell that most appealed to her. Very quickly, we are in her head, okay? And then when we get to this first sentence is about the Gothic buildings and the Nassau Street and all of this. But then we do go into action. But she did not like that she had to go to Trenton to braid her hair. It was unreasonable to expect a braiding salon in Princeton. The few black locals she had seen were so light-skinned and lank-haired, she could not imagine them wearing braids. And yet, as she waited at Princeton Junction station for the train on an afternoon ablaze with heat, she wondered why there was no place where she could braid her hair. Okay, so what it's doing is it's going in and it's going out. So it's going out into Princeton, it's going out into the sort of the cultural, historical, contemporary setting of Princeton in the States, but it's then also staying with her. It's talking about her hair in connection with Princeton, right? It's talking about the heat and the hair and Princeton streets in connection with what she feels, what Efemelu feels about these things. So I just want you to kind of think about the difference in the things that we just read, in Dickens and in Alcott, we really do stay quite distant from it all. We can see everything, but not so closely. And in the second one, it also allowed us to do setting and location and culture, but it did so in a way that stayed still very close to the character. So this is more contemporary. So I just want you to kind of have a think and have a play with this kind of distant third and this close third, and think about, what do these achieve? What does it achieve when we're so distant? What does it achieve when we're so close? And kind of just play and think about stylistic choices and genre conventions and even contemporary conventions and how you might break them if that's where your head goes. So just kind of have a little play and a little think about what are the uses and the challenges of each. The challenges, for example, of a close third is that you can't go outside their head. But you can more so than you can with a first person point of view. So in a third person point of view, you still stick to the point of view character's head. You can't see outside of it, but you have some freedom to show historical things that have happened, backstory that's happened, perhaps a little bit of knowledge of the outside world, more so than in the first person point of view. So you just kind of think, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using particular points of view. So do check out my other posts on points of view. I'm going to do a few so that you have a really good, thorough understanding with excerpts of what these points of view can provide you. So if you enjoyed it, if you enjoyed the post and found it useful and would find it useful for your writing journey, do subscribe. It's free and it means that you'll never miss a post, and we'll stay in touch, which is what I like doing. So thank you for listening.